This is Milepost. Hello, I'm Tomi Oladipo. This episode's guest is Chibundu Onuzo. She's a novelist, an academic, and now a screenplay writer. And she's got some new projects lined up. So let's find out how that's going. Chibundu Onuzo, hello, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you, Tomi?
Very well, very well. Thank you for coming on to speak. Where are you? How are you? What's happening?
Well, I'm in London. A global pandemic is happening. I'm in my house. Everybody in like Western Europe is in their house. We're all in the same place.
Yeah, tell me about it. This is unlike anything we've ever seen
Mm,
in our lifetimes.
mm.
How have you been coping with it?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I started writing full time. Or I decided to write full time, I think, end of 2018 or actually maybe mid 2019. And so actually I'm the most prepared person professionally for a global pandemic because
Interesting.
writing full time as a writer involves staying at home and
Right.
writing. Even though, I mean, obviously I used to go out in the evenings. So I think that's been a drastic change actually, not being able to go out at all. But I'm used to sort of having the day to fill at home and sort of getting on with work and that sort of thing. So work-wise, it's been okay. I edited my novel in the lockdown, started another one. Yeah.
Ooh. Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But
Mm-hmm.
being in a pandemic, having all this
Mm-hmm.
time to write, don't you need some of those breaks in between when you need to sort of freshen up your mind, really, and get some space?
Hmm.
And now, obviously, you can't do that.
This is true, actually. I did used to try to go to like the theatre or gallery openings and that sort of thing, just to be looking at things to sort of get your mind going. But then there's also things to like look at in like a pandemic. Like, so I've started running actually,
Ooh.
because yeah, like if you don't get deliberate about your exercise, none of your clothes will fit you by the time we're allowed to go out in the world. So I started doing something called Catch to 5K. And
Okay.
yesterday on my run, there was this woman, she was just so funny. Like anytime someone would try and pass her on the path, she would change direction. Obviously, she's trying to avoid any sort of contact with
Yeah.
people. But there was a bit where one runner was running this way and then she changed direction and then I was running in the other direction and she just kept going back and forth like
Oh
a
no.
shuttlecock. It was so funny. Um, and I thought it was really funny. I was like, I think you need to build your own park, ma'am, if you don't want to come into contact with human beings. Yeah,
You're in London. You've been in England for years now.
for a long time. I moved here when I was 14 and I'm
Ooh.
now 30. So I have been here for 16 years. Yes.
What's your most British trait?
Ah, hmm. My most British trait, let me tell you, I discovered it when I went to Nigeria and I was queuing to get on a plane. And this big man slash old man, um, he cut the queue, man. This guy, and he just asked the person, "Oh, please let me enter," and that person let them enter.
Oh.
And I almost had like a fit, like a heart attack. I was like, did anybody not just see this man just cut the queue? I was like, you are
Oh.
now British, so you want to die because somebody jumped the queue.
And everyone's looking at you like, what's going on?
Exactly. I like he's a baba now or something. I said, no, no. Actually, I don't think he was an old man. I just think he was like a big man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go to what you're doing right now. So
Mm-hmm.
you're working on your third novel.
Well, it's coming out. I'm done now. It's
Oh.
coming out in June this year. Um, and then yeah, I started my next novel project. The pandemic has been quite fruitful actually for me creatively, I would say. So I had a short film come out on Netflix. I co-wrote and co-produced it. It's called Dolapo is Fine.
Hmm.
And yeah, it just sort of sparked, why don't I try to get into television? It's all the same writing now. It's all the same laptop that you write it on. So I actually signed up. I signed up at the end of 2019. I signed up for something called, was it end of 2019 or end of 2018 now? Like all the years run into each other. But something called Masterclass. It's this sort of program where different people who are sort of experts in their field give these sort of lessons that they then term a masterclass. So I signed up for masterclass and did Shonda Rhimes masterclass. And yeah, sort of how to script write, how to pitch, all that sort of stuff. Right. So yeah, I spent a lot of 2020 and also moving into 2021, you know, trying to crack this television thing. So yeah, we'll see.
And Dolapo is Fine came off a short story you had written?
Yes, exactly. So I had a short story called Sunita. It was commissioned by Radio 3, BBC Radio 3. And the actress who read it on air, Joan Iola, we became friends after that. And we sort of thought, yeah, we should try and turn one of the things I've written into something for film, something for television. So we started with one of my novels. For two people who've never written a script before to go straight into like a feature, we were like, right, you know, 110 minutes or whatever, 120-minute feature. Like, okay, maybe we've bitten off more than we can chew. And then she suggested, why don't we start with something smaller? So why don't we adapt one of your short stories into a short film? And then it was like, okay, yes, that makes more sense. Because then the script is only about sort of 16 or 17 pages. It's a more manageable size. So we did that. We wrote it together. We wrote the script together. And then we got £20,000 from Bumble to make the film. Yeah, we won a grant. And then, yeah, we were off.
Great. And what was that process like, turning text into something visual?
I mean, so obviously, like most of the visual part, that was the director, Toshia Hilton. You know, she took our script and sort of brought it to life on screen. But I think what I discovered was sort of how many people are involved. And this is even a short film, talk less of sort of a TV series or a feature-length film. How many people are just involved? So, you know, if you write a short story, like I'm the boss, right? You know, I'm the boss, I'm the creative director, the producer, the everything. Whereas you have to work with, so even though the original idea may be yours, you have to work with so many more people to bring it to life. And so, like, in theory, I would have said I was, I'm a fairly collaborative person, but actually in practice, they're like, oh no, but why? Because also, for example, the original short story is called Sunita. You know, and the film is called Dolapo is Fine. So even, you know, you have to discuss the title change and sort of everybody gives their sort of point of view about why they think this title would work better for what we've made than the original short story title. And obviously, you know, like your first instinct to say, no, it's called Sunita, it must be Sunita, full stop. But, you know, in the film sort of thing, it doesn't work like that. It's more sort of collaborative. And I'm happy with the title. I think, you know, Dolapo is Fine. You know, it works. Yeah.
And you know, sometimes you watch you read a book, let's say Harry Potter or something, and then you watch the film, and you know, there's sometimes it's not quite what you picture. How did this work out for you when you eventually saw the final product versus what you read?
I mean, I was so involved in every stage. So I was involved in casting. I was involved. I was really involved with every stage. So there was no way the final product was going. I was on set, so there was no way the final product was going to be a surprise to me. I mean, I was involved in the edit. Oh gosh, I've watched so many versions of this film. So yeah, it was different for me because I was very involved. I knew some authors, you literally sort of sign off the rights, you know, they pay you, they make the film, and then you come at the premiere. But no, I was involved in every stage, costumes, every stage.
Right. And the film, what's it about?
So the main character is called Dolapo. She's a teenager in boarding school, and she's looking or trying to get an internship in a bank, a summer internship in sort of the finance world.
That's in England.
So this is England, yes. She has a mentor, you know, sort of all these sort of programs they have where a senior person sort of helps with attracting diversity or whatever. Anyway, this mentor is a black woman, an older black woman, who tells her that if she wants to be successful in the finance world, she's going to have to get rid of her afro. That, you know, the look is not professional, right. You know, if she wants to work maybe in fashion or whatever, but not for finance. So Dolapo, because, you know, she's ambitious, she wants to succeed, so she goes off and buys this human hair wig to make herself more presentable. And then the film is her journey of deciding who she wants to be. In this, yeah.
Interesting. Was there a kind of I don't know, personal link to the story?
Well, so not for me. It's so funny, like, because I'm I'm what sort of Daisy the character quips. If you want to work in the creative industries, natural hair is fine. So I mean, I'm a writer. I cut my hair. I've had natural hair since I was 19. I've never had sort of any comments on my hair except, "Well, it's so amazing. Your hair is so cool." I don't know if it's true. I don't know if that's what they think, but you know, those are generally the sort of comments I would get in my own sort of professional way. I suppose, yeah, I haven't sort of, even though I was having this conversation with my friend, even sort of describing my hair in its natural state as cool. Mm-hmm. It's a bit funny though. Like, what do you mean by cool? Like, I associate cool with somebody trying to make a style statement, like wearing a leather jacket with spikes.
Yeah.
But this is just the way my hair grows out of my head. It's not any statement in any direction. It's you know, like, so if I did something extra with my hair, but just to see my hair as an afro and call it cool,
yeah.
I'm like, well, just when I see your blonde hair straight, I don't call it cool. That's just your hair, you know.
Yeah.
But generally, I haven't had any problem.
Okay.
But my friends who do work sort of in banks or in lawyers and that sort of thing, I do know that very few of them wear their natural hair out. Right. Most of them will wear weaves or wigs. Or sometimes braids, but very discreet braids. You know, we're talking black braids, you know, no blonde, no blonde, no reddish tone, sort of very discreet and sort of braids. So yeah, I think there is that. I have a friend who's a doctor. He was telling me that after she went on maternity leave, she just couldn't be bothered to wear wigs anymore. And so she's come back now onto ward. And she said people keep mistaking her for a cleaner. People keep mistaking her for a nurse. Someone came up to her the other day and said, "Please, can you make me a cup of tea?" And she's like, "I'm attending to a patient." Yeah, goodness. She was very confused. So yeah, it's a thing. It is definitely still a thing. It's not in your mind.
Right.
You get treated differently if your hair is a bit sleeker. I mean, I will say that I'm often, when I go for events to speak, for example, sometimes, like, you know, I went for an event once where, I mean, I had braids, but blonde braids. I went for an event once where a driver came to pick me up, and I and my friend, who was also black, were the only two people on the platform. And he was still looking for me. Like, he looked at me and then kept looking for the person he had come to pick up.
Oh, gosh.
And you know, sometimes when those sort of things happen, I mean, because he had my name, he just didn't have a photograph. Yeah. And I was actually wondering, what did he think Chibundu would look like? Like, you know, Jennifer from Leicester, really? Yeah. But I don't know if that one is because I'm young or it's because I'm black. You can never really tell what it is that's going through people's minds.
It's interesting. Interesting. I mean, I even just the term natural hair, like hair, I just think it should be called hair.
You're right. Like, you're right.
That is what comes up.
Right.
The rest is what should have the sort of prefix.
Yes, you are right. It's true, because you know, if you see someone who's, you know, Asian or and the way their hair is, you wouldn't say, "Oh, that's their natural hair." You just say, "Oh, that's their hair." Or you see sort of a blonde person, you don't say a blonde Scandinavian. You don't say, "Oh, that's their natural." That's just their hair.
Yeah, interesting. And so you brought this out in film, and the film seems to be you've attended some, or rather, the film has graced some festivals.
Yes, it has. It has. It was at the American Black Film Festival, where it won the short film prize, which is really cool. So that prize has been won by like people by like Ryan Coogler, people that have gone on to do sort of great things. So it's great. It's sponsored by HBO. So that's how we got the HBO link through winning that prize. And then it's been at the I Would Tell Festival here. It's been at the London Film Festival. Yeah, it's been at a range actually. The BFI. Yeah, it's been at a range. It's the little short film that could chugging away.
Yeah. One of the issues I suppose that brings up is the fact that it's a black girl in a setting that is not used to her. So I guess she's a minority. She's a foreigner in a sense in that setting. It's a key topic today, the issue of diversity and all of that. How has your multiculturalism, your multinationalism affected your view of everything that's going on today in terms of this topic where diversity is such a big thing?
I think of myself as Nigerian. I don't think of myself as a multinational, actually. I think of myself as Nigerian. I'm also British now, actually. I'm naturalized. So I guess in that way, I have two nationalities. And as I said, I almost had a heart attack when somebody jumped a queue in Nigeria. So I'm obviously more British than I realized. But I think, the stories I tell, generally, actually, I will try and tell a setting that's familiar, but from a perspective that is not in this sort of British context that I find myself in. So yes, it was fun to set her in a boarding school because we've seen the boarding school movies, or we have a picture in our minds when you say British boarding school, and it's not often a Nigerian teenager with an afro. It's sort of a Gwendolyn or those girls from Mallory Towers, etc., etc. So yeah, I mean, it's something that I engage more. So my next novel that's coming out, Sankofa, it's my first novel that a large portion of it is set in England. So I think after 16 years here, after all the tea I have drunk, after all the scones I have eaten,
you should have something to show for it.
Exactly. After all I don't like fish and chips. After all the chips, yeah.
What was that process like? Because let's go back a bit. You, at a time, I think were the youngest on Faber Faber's roster, and 2 books down, you're on to the next one. What was the time difference between you said?
So Spider King's daughter came out when I was 21.
Yeah.
And Welcome to Lagos came out really 5 years later. I was 25, but I was just about to turn 26.
Okay. Oh, so it was almost, the writing was almost, would you say, was back to back? Or did you have a sort of a long gap in between?
No.
Okay.
I started Welcome to Lagos almost as soon as I finished The Spider King's daughter.
Okay.
But it took me a lot longer to write. It was a difficult second album. It took me a lot longer to write Welcome to Lagos than it did The Spider King's daughter.
Okay. And then now you're on the third one. Are they sort of what change in your approach writing, for example, this latest one, and not just in writing but also in viewing life as an author, career as an author, publishing, and all of that?
That's a good question, actually. I think so. And again, because of the Nigerian culture that we both grew up in, like the creative arts are something you do with something. It's like the stew to your rice, right? So you are a doctor and you write at night, or you're a lawyer and you write at night. And funny enough, that's sort of the model that I saw with my parents. Both my parents are writers, both of them have published books, but their full-time job is as doctors, right? Medical doctors. And so I sort of did my degree, I did my first degree, and was writing. So The Spider King's daughter came out when I was in my final year of university. Then I did a master's and was writing. And then I did a PhD and I was writing. And then I lectured at SOAS and I was writing. And it was a big step for me, actually, to say, Actually, no. I don't want to just be doing rice and stew. So the writing is the stew. I want the writing to be the rice. I want it to be the stew. I want it to be the chicken. I want it to be vegetables on the side, depending if you're a healthy Nigerian and eat vegetables with your meal.
And dessert.
Exactly. And I want it Benny. Exactly. You understand me. Exactly. You understand what I'm saying. And it was a big thing, actually. I remember one of my relatives, when I said, I'm not lecturing at university, they're like, oh, I like being able to tell people that I have a cousin who lectures at SOAS. I was like, thank you. I'm not making my life decisions for your bragging rights.
What a way to look at things.
And people would be really puzzled because, obviously, like, it's like, oh, like you're lecturing. And I was 28 or 27 when I started lecturing at SOAS. They were like, oh, you're lecturing at the university. The prestige of that. Which Nigerians would always understand better than saying you've published 2 novels.
Right.
I'm like, well, that's also prestigious. In fact, I think, for example, I was elected a fellow of the Royal Society of Literature, which is this sort of very old, I think I'm one of the youngest fellows ever, or whatever, I was 20, so, but that one, but lecturer.
Oh, interesting. I never thought people would see it that way.
Or maybe it's just my family. I don't know. My family and friends, and then there'll always be this sort of. And I've come a long way, actually. I was sort of bristle. I suppose the only word to say is I felt insecure about it. When they say, oh, "Okay, so what are you doing now?" I'm writing, and it's like, it's like, what's the stew? What the rice and stew? Yeah. And it's like, no, I'm writing full time. How does that work? I'm writing full time. Yeah. But it works.
I don't think people know many writers to be able to know what to expect or to know how a writer lives.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So is this which publisher are you under right now?
So I've left Faber. So Faber was for my first 2 novels, and now I've moved to Virago, which is under the Little Brown book group. Yeah.
Okay. And you say this new book will be out in June.
June 3rd, 2020 in the UK, and then in October, I think, in the US, and then also sometime this year in Nigeria.
Okay. I was speaking to Faber, who was actually a couple of episodes before you on this, and he was talking about the problems of promoting a book. What are your plans? Because obviously everything, I guess, will be Zoom and.
Okay, what are my plans? Well, this is a worldwide exclusive for you. So I am releasing a single with my next novel. So I sing as well. So that's one of our plans. Watch this space. So think of it sort of how films have soundtracks.
Right.
Well, my book has a soundtrack, okay? So move over Lion King and Beyonce and whoever. Sankofa is coming to town. So yeah, there's that. I'm releasing a single. And then all the other things, sort of, a lot of the literary festivals this year are online only. So like maybe, hopefully the Edinburgh Book Festival, all those sort of traditional channels. But I think you also have to get creative and think of just other ways, because there are a lot of, like, podcasts are a great way, actually. Sort of a little bit outside the traditional media that publishers usually pitch to. And you don't need to focus on just book podcasts. So like this podcast is not just for authors, but it will have an audience. So yeah, there are ways.
Okay. So and just the singing, putting out the song as well. I'm just wondering, how did you come to that idea of thinking that the two could work together?
Well, these are the uses of a pandemic. So in January 2020, because I'm a musician, I sing. I had a show at the South Bank 1991 that had sort of incorporated music, and I sang some of my original music as well. But in January 2020, my friend who sort of mans a recording studio, I went to him and said, I have some songs I want to record. So he said to me, why don't you release a song with your next novel? And I was like, oh no, I don't have anything I've written that fits the themes of my next novel. And I don't have time, I'm like, I'm busy. I don't have time to sit down and think of a song that will match this novel. Well, hello, global pandemic, and nobody's busy and nobody's going anywhere,
Right.
and everybody's plans are cancelled. Every single speaking engagement, every single place you thought you were traveling to. So yeah, I've had a lot more time to sort of sit at home. I have a piano. Yes, I've been sort of writing songs just more generally. I almost feel like I'm back a little bit in the creative space of when I came here for boarding school, and I didn't have anything else to do with my free time except do creative things, So there was, boarding school, I was a full boarder. My weekends, I was in boarding school. I wasn't going to any parties, nothing. I was just sort of by myself creatively. And I think, last year, I sort of recreated that for me. So yeah, I wrote a song. It's called Good Soil.
Okay.
So yes, watch this space. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, congratulations. That reminds me of back in the day when you would get a book, and at the back of the book, in the sleeve, there'd be a CD there, which would have nice interactive stuff. So
Tell me, how old are you, please? I don't know which back in the day. Not my day. I'm a millennial. Yeah.
Oh gosh, it wasn't that long ago. It's just that technology has gone so fast lately. Your first two novels were under one publisher, so I guess those will classify as being one set, and you moving to the new publisher and your new novel. How did you approach things differently generally?
I mean, there are a lot of similarities. So I'm actually with the same editor that I was with at my first publisher. So she moved after my two books to Virago. And so in a sense, I also kind of also moved with her. I mean, what's different? I think now I'm more sort of assertive in what sort of, and also because I know more in what directions I think the book should also be marketed, how to get the books into the hands of more sort of Black readers, Black British readers. I think earlier on, I would sort of have left it to the publisher, I've written the book and then buy. Whereas now I'm sort of a lot more hands-on in the process. And yes, it's good to place it in these traditional places. So of course we want a Guardian review or an FT review. But I've also thought about sending the book to Black British influencers, and, Black British YouTubers and so on and so forth. So sort of being more involved and saying, oh, actually, I think you can also try here or try this, and sort of just looking for different ways to get the book into places where you wouldn't expect it to be. So hence the same thing with the single. The simple idea behind it is that generally book publicists, there are 4, maybe 5 things on radio that are book focused, and everybody that publishes a book is trying to get on those 5 things. But if you have a song, radio is made for music, so you can play a song on anything and then say it is attached to this book. Right. It doesn't need to be a program specifically for books. So yeah, that's sort of the idea behind releasing a single and the book.
Okay, and what about in the writing process? Because this was a longer gap than would you say it's a longer gap? So
2012, 2017, and now 2021. So it's actually shorter. It's 4 years this time.
All right. But was there any in terms of writing? I mean, I was just wondering, are there any things you thought about differently? Are there any, I don't know, tools you used differently or did it just flow?
So this book is based on my PhD research. So I'll tell you a synopsis. So the main character, Anna, she's in her 40s, and she discovers that her father, who came over to England as a student and then returned to Bamana, she's never met him before. Bamana is a fictional West African country I made up. She discovers that her father is still alive. And she's based on, because my PhD was on the West African Students' Union, which was a group based in Camden Town from 1925 to 1970. And I came across this story sort of a lot, these men would come over, people probably have an affair with a white woman. Sometimes they may not have known she was pregnant, sometimes they might, and they might just have done a runner. And, they've gone back to West Africa. So they're actually, and after I started writing the book, I would come across people that this was their story. quite a few people that have a story like that, my father came over as a student, went back home. And so I think, starting from a place of research, that was exciting to write, actually. And so, yes, I'm interested to see how the book is received, especially by people who have some sort of connection to that type of story.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Sankofa out in June.
Yes.
With a single as well.
Yes.
We're looking forward to that. Chibundu Onuzo, thank you very much for coming onto the pod.
Thanks for having me.
You can also look up Chibundu's other books, The Spider King's Daughter and Welcome to Lagos. Her short film is called Dolapo is Fine. And that's been the conversation on this episode of Milepost. Until the next one, cheers!